Welcome to a very, very special edition of the Marketing Companion today. But before I get immersed in our topic, I want to remind you that our show is brought to you by Brevo. And I got to meet some of the people from Brevo at a recent speaking engagement at Marketing Prof's B2B forum. And wow, I mean, they have so many new things coming. They're introducing new technologies, new capabilities, and really making great inroads with both small businesses and enterprise accounts. So you need to check them out. I know a lot of listeners have already tried this and loved it. If you haven't tried it yet, you've got nothing to lose. Go to brevo.com/marketing companion and you could try it for free. And if you want to sign up for the paid version, be sure to use the promo code companion to get 50% off your first 3 months. So today is a bittersweet show. It's sweet because we've got Keith Jennings here today, and we're going to be talking about personal audacity and how a new book I've written has sort of changed Keith's life. And the bitter part is that Keith is going to be taking a sabbatical from the show. And that makes me sad because I changed the format of this show about 2.5 years ago, I think, to have 6 rotating co-hosts. And the co-hosts have sort of come and gone over the years, but Keith is my longest tenured co-host, and he has brought a certain humanity, introspection, and even at times vulnerability to the show, which I have loved, I have cherished. I think these are aspects of marketing we don't talk enough about. And on a personal level, I will say that there really is no human being in my life who's had a bigger impact on my personal and professional life over the last 5 years than Keith Jennings. He's become a very close friend. He's become my marketing muse, and he always will be, even though he's not on the Marketing Companion show. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to make an announcement. I'm going to tell you, if I can remember, I'm going to announce who the new Marketing Companion co-host is going to be, which is going to be pretty exciting. So Keith, you mentioned you need to take a sabbatical from the show. Hopefully you'll come back someday. But you said that you kind of need to retrench and you're going to be stepping away from a number of things in 2025. And you were one of the beta readers for my book. So you got to read my book. And by the way, the book will be out in February. It's called Audacious: How Humans Win in an AI Marketing World. And after being a beta reader and and your reaction to the book was, look, I got to change some things in my life, including being on your show. So in some ways, my book helped kick you off the show. I'm not sure I'm too happy about that. So what's going on here?
I love it. So I had to look this up. May 30th of this year, May 30th, you and I are having some back and forth. So May 30th, I get an email from you and we're talking about whatever we're talking about.
Yeah.
And at the end of your email, it says, can't remember if I told you about my new book. It's about disruptive content. It's going to be so good. And
Yeah.
I replied immediately and said, I can't remember. I'm like, I'm
I'm
all
in.
in on
I'm in.
disruptive content. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm bored. I need something. And you said, hey, want to read the book? I'm like, absolutely. And as I read the manuscript, first of all, normally, as a reader, you're reading for, does this make sense? Do the arguments add up, right? Is there a flow to this? Is this applicable to me? Does this seem applicable to what's happening right now? You're reading all this. This time, as I'm reading it for you, in service of you that way, I kept going back and like I would do my reading job, beta reader job. Then I'm going back and rereading the chapter you said, right? And then I went back, I'm reading the chapter again. I'm going back and going, I need to read that story one more time. And it's the first time, I mean, I haven't done this in a long time. And I'm going, God, there's some good nuggets and insight in this. And so as I'm reading, I'm starting to say, is my work audacious? Like, and I really started reflecting on that question seriously.
Mm.
And, it started with you and I had an exchange on this. I had to go back and I'm like, where did the word audacious come from? And, found out it comes out of the 1500s and it came out of words that meant meaning they had words that meant confident or daring, intrepid,
Bold.
bold. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, brave. And um, there was this other line of etymology in the word audacious that came from words that meant spirited.
Mm.
And I loved that. And so
Mm.
is my work, which I love my work and I
Yeah.
love who I work with and
Mm.
for.
Mm.
But I'm like, is my work audacious? No, it's not.
Mhm.
It
Mm.
used to be, and it's not. And so it really made me start thinking what's happening right now. And I think this happens to
Mm.
all of us is it's like, you live in a house a long time, your basement and your attic and your garage gets cluttered, right? You keep hanging on
Mm.
to stuff and you shift stuff around and stuff keeps adding up. It's slow, but suddenly you kind of look around and you realize, it's
I'm
cluttered,
covered up.
cluttered.
Yeah.
For
And
me,
yeah, the thing it's
yeah.
I think the word is I think I'm using this correctly. It sort of like ossifies like a fossil. Like fossils get created by
Ooh,
being buried under, clutter over years and years and years, and then it kind of turns to stone.
yep.
I see that in the marketing profession.
Yes.
We
I
get
see this in
little.
the social sector.
Yes, social. Well,
Yeah.
really, I mean, it's like I see like things that are like written about marketing years ago, and that becomes part of the culture. It becomes part of the DNA, and then it just like becomes like fossilized, and
Mhm.
nobody even thinks any differently anymore. So what really pleases me is that look, the new book it can be taken in a very personal way. It's a
Mhm.
challenge that look, competent doesn't cut it anymore.
Exactly.
Competent is a commodity. If you're competent, AI can be competent.
Mhm.
You're in trouble. So so it's pretty forthright in that way. So, but it gives you a framework to dig deeply into your own heart, into your own spirit, into your own experience, into your own knowledge, and ignite the human fireworks to help you stand out in a new way, to help you, your work, your company, your marketing stand out in a new way. And your reaction to the book was very similar to what the other beta readers said too, is that,
Nice.
wow,
Nice.
I was reading this in a business perspective, but all of a sudden it was like a wake up call from a
Mhm.
personal perspective, like, wow, I've got to change my view of the world.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how's
And
that
it
playing
will.
out for you and how you're going forward now?
Yeah, yeah. So for me, it was like, okay, we've got these three questions, we ask in my company, Jackson Healthcare, and these are
Mm.
things they're like code that we use to
Yeah.
kind of talk about our businesses, talk about where we're at, talk about the
Mhm.
growth stages, and so yeah, I've kind of been going through these three questions personally, and I thought, and every time I bring this topic up. I'm getting a lot of energy from a lot of people. It seems like a lot of people
Wow.
are going through this right
Yeah.
now, and maybe end of year, looking at the New Year's part of it.
Mm.
But yeah, I think a lot of people are in a career stage or a life stage where it's like, I'm busy. I'm busier than I've ever been. Uh, but is the busy the right busy? Right? Is the stuff I'm working on going to be stuff I look back on and I'm proud of, and that I feel like will make a real impact, right? And so the first question that I started with was this idea of working in the business or working in your field or working in your job versus working on it.
Hmm.
And when you're working in it, which is what we do every day, you're doing your job, right? You're working your field. You're kind of doing the projects and tasks and administrative works and the meetings that you've got to do to keep things going. And that's like, that's the whirlwind, right? That stays busy. It never changes. But when you shift to work on the business, you have to take a step back to say, you know, is all this stuff we're doing, does it add up? Does it make sense? Is it still relevant?
Yeah.
Are we still providing excellence with what we do? And so I remember I had to share this story. I don't think I've ever told you this. In 2008, I'm almost 10 years into a leadership role with a 2-hospital health system. I'm head of marketing, head of planning, great job, young family. And I watch, what we were calling Web 2.0 happen, right? Social media. And I'm watching it happen. And it's like, there's this new planet and people can live there. And, and I'm on this planet and I need to at least go visit that planet, right? And I literally, it was about a 1.5 year process of where I realized if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm dead. Like, right? And I'm not just dead as a career person. Things aren't just exciting for me. They're not challenging to me anymore. And so I did. I quit my job with a young family, went out on my own, and I just immersed myself in this, which set up the career I've had since then. And
Yeah.
it's funny, 10 years later, 2018, I'm head of marketing for, one of the largest healthcare staffing companies. And I consider it's time to create this new job, doing our CSR work and community impact. And people told me they thought I was committing career suicide. And I'm kind of like, I don't care because I really feel like this is what I want to do and what I'm supposed to do. And,
Mhm.
thankful it's
And
been,
how many years ago was that?
that was 2018. So it was 2008 when I
Yeah.
left
So
the
it's so
hospital.
so now it's time to look up
It
again.
and what's happening is there's this new planet called the AIs,
Yeah.
and there's so much happening, and I'm seeing it, and it's like I know this can change the social sector. I know it can.
Yeah.
It
Oh
is
yeah.
doing it, and I need to be in this. I need to be learning it. So that was kind of the first question I went to, and I'm curious: was that what led you, Mark, to kind of make your transition?
Yeah, I mean, as I look back at my career, I hadn't thought about it in this perspective before, but basically, my whole career has been a series of just risk
Mm,
taking. And I was thinking, okay, I've got this new book coming out called Audacious, and someone's going to ask me, okay, Mark Schaefer, what have you done that has been audacious? And
right.
so, like, I started making a list, and like, my whole career has just been like zigging when everyone else is zagging. And
Yep.
similar to you, when the internet started, I was working for a Fortune 100 company, and I was kind of stuck in my job. It was time for me to look up and reinvent myself, and this thing called the internet was starting. And I went to
Mhm.
my boss and I said, I think there's some business opportunities here. I would like to get an AOL account and put it on my expense account. And we fought over this. Eventually, he gave me the $9.99 account. I was the first person in my company with an internet account,
Wow.
Fortune 100 company. And I can point to where I am today
Huh.
from that conversation and being bold and reaching, just starting something new and taking a risk. When I was starting my speaking career, nobody would hire me. I was doing such good work. Nobody would hire me anywhere.
Mm.
I started my own event, right? I started this thing
Right,
called
right.
Social Slam. First year, 450 people showed up.
Yeah. Wow.
I had no idea what I was doing. But I mean,
Audacious.
absolutely, it was crazy. I had an idea for my first book. Nobody would publish it. Self-publish this thing, 2010. Nobody's self-publishing in 2010.
Huh?
But just like it's kind of like, screw you. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Became the best-selling book on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So so let's move on to
Yeah.
question two. I
That's it.
think it's interesting because this kind of goes hand in hand with the book I wrote, Marketing Rebellion. Marketing
Mhm.
Rebellion was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call to say, look, the marketing world is ossified. You are working in a fossil. Look up and see how the world really works. And I think this book is sort of that same way with AI. It's like, wake up, let's see what's going to be happening to us here. And the status quo is just not going to work for us anymore. So
No.
what's question number two?
Yeah. So
What's
once you back up and you say, I've got to get out of just working in my job and start working on it. The next question is, it's a healthcare term, but are you working at the top of your license? Right? Are you working at the top of your license based on who you are, the experience you have, the skill set you have? And there's a pastor here in Atlanta, Andy Stanley, who does a leadership coaching and great leadership podcasts and all this. And he has this saying that we use here a lot, which is only do what only you can do. And if you reflect on that question, only do what only you can do. Well, what is that? And so that's kind of this next phase of the question of working on, which is, am I working at the top of my license? And this is where, again, if you're being audacious, you are, because you're saying no to a lot. You're having to say no to a lot of opportunities, and in order to say yes to a focus area that can kind of get you, your job, your company, and your field to the next level. And so, yeah, I've got tons of examples there. But for me, am I working at the top of my license? No, no,
Mm, mm,
I'm not.
yeah.
And despite what people think, and I feel like there's so much happening between changes in the social sector that have really happened since the pandemic, and
Mm.
they kind of stayed in place. Volunteerism has been on a year-over-year decline for over 10 years. Like
Oh, wow.
donations, you got to think with the economic pressures, need for social services is higher, but band kind of it's a stretch now for for most people to donate money because life's expensive, and so there's just a lot happening in the world right now. But it's like, but what tools are emerging and out there that could help us better understand things or understand trends faster? And so, yeah, I've decided it's time to back up and really ask, if I were to be working at the top of my license, doing what only I can do, what is that? And right now, I don't know the answer to that. That 2025 is going to be my investment
Yeah.
to say no to as much as I can in order to pursue this question.
Yeah, which leads us to saying no to me on the podcast, but I'll
For
I'll
now,
forgive you
for
for now.
now.
For now.
I feel like
Uh,
I'm not you're so complimentary, but I feel like I don't feel like I'm bringing the best value as a
uh,
co-host that I
right.
could be. And I feel like if I go take a minute
Yeah.
and do this, I if once we come back together, I feel like I would expect to be at a new level of
Mhm.
knowledge and insight, and to really be able to help listeners, in a valuable way to them, valuable to them.
There's I have sort of a positive and negative impact to this idea of only do what only you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So the negative impact is one of the lessons I learned. So I teach this personal branding class, and one of the exercises in the personal branding class um, is how do you complete this sentence? Only I, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that is a really good exercise. If you can finish that sentence as a person or a company,
Yep.
it sort of unleashes this idea of what makes me different, what is my story, and then you know what story to tell and who to tell it to and where to tell it. Now, what I've found from my experience is sometimes people obsess on that too much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've got to be like the LinkedIn person or the Facebook person or the
Oh
blogging
yeah.
person or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And here's a message I want to bring to the world and maybe to you as you go through this transformation and this introspection. Is sometimes your point of differentiation is you. It's
Mm-hmm.
you, right? It's your experiences and your compassion and your education and your connections and everything that makes you you. And I think for me, that really is sort of my point of differentiation. I'm not the LinkedIn guy. I'm not, excuse me, the blogging guy. I used to be the Twitter guy, and thankfully I was able to shed that skin. Um, but I think why people read my blog or listen to my podcast is because I kind of have a perspective. I kind of bring a worldview. I tell dad jokes sometimes. Uh, I think my perspective is often bold. It's not necessarily reckless or offensive, but I mean, I say what needs to be said in a caring way. So that would be number one. The positive about this statement that I like is only do what you can do is What I admire most about people, and I admire certainly you this way, is that God has given you certain gifts and you leave nothing on the table. And in a way, maybe that's the challenge for you right now is okay, instead of working in this ossified, fossilized structure, how can you take your power and unleash it in a new way? And that's what I would encourage everyone to think about is look at the structure of where you're working. One of the ideas in the new book is that business rewards you to be dull. It rewards you to be average. It rewards you to not take risks and to be competent. The easy thing, the boring thing is what's easy to get approved by the legal department. The easy thing, the boring thing is the thing that's not going to, create some discussion. It's not going to put anybody at risk. But it is a time, and AI is the thing that is the catalyst here. This is the time to rethink every structure, right? Every structure. In the book, I talk about this framework of rethinking what is your story. Where is the story told? How is the story told? Who tells the story, right? We need to blow that apart
Yep.
and stop taking everything for granted and crack open these fossils and find something new and exciting and original and personal, which is only going to come from us as human beings because ChatGPT can't do that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it was funny. It was those pieces of the book that there is a huge opportunity I'm seeing in each state, but I really want to focus on Georgia right now and foster care. And there's this huge opportunity, and I feel like and it's a gap, and
Mhm.
all the pieces are there. It's just that the pieces aren't being linked together. And it's like, and that's it. It's like I need bandwidth and time to get out and listen and meet all these players and see where things are. But I'm confident there's a way of linking them together to solve a big problem in the as young people age out of the foster care system and move into the workforce. There's a huge opportunity right there. And it's like I'm so excited to get to it, but I haven't been able to, right? It's like there's a new way of doing this, and we have another saying here, which is if it's to be, it's up to me. So if you see an opportunity and there's something to be done, we'll do it, right?
Yeah.
It's our responsibility to do that. And you talking reminded me, I think I sent this to you in an email. You two, big band for so long, global phenomenon with the Joshua Tree, massive world tour, cover of Time magazine, then come out with Rattle and Hum album and the movie. It kind of flops. It's 1989. Bono says in a concert, "We're going away. We're going away for a while. Not sure what's going to happen." And then I think it was like 3 years later, they reemerge, totally not looking like or sounding like U2 anymore, although in hindsight they were. But it was they released this album called Octoon Baby. It just totally reset who they were as a band. And Bono in an interview said that the Octoon Baby album is the sound of four men chopping down the Joshua Tree, and that's it, right? This is like sometimes you got to step back and you got to say, okay, all this stuff is good and it's working and it's been successful and great, but is that good enough? Is that all, going back to, is that audacious? Is that what we need to be doing right now? And that's kind of this third question, which is, are you working at the edge of your abilities? And I've kind of not been, I've been in my strengths, but it's like, I always feel like I don't need to just be in my strengths. I need to be a little out of, I need to be learning how to swim a little bit. And so again, I was at the Uprising in spring, had some so, as we all do, you have 100 little side conversations that are just, it's the magic of what the Uprising is. But I had multiple conversations where I was saying out loud to folks, I wish you could build models that could track and trend and predict social sector issues like food insecurity by zip code or county, or like and people are saying, well, you can do that. Like that's can be done. And I'm like, well, duh, you're absolutely right, that can be done. Why am I not why am I not doing it? So again, 2025 is again, for me, it's like is saying, okay, it's time to get out, out of the job part of the job, listen to people, learn from people, look at what's happening, look at some of these emerging technologies, seeing what's good, what's bad, what's working, what's not, and start playing with it, right? Pick some projects and start working with this stuff just
Mhm.
to see what's happening. So I've always said sometimes it's time to unlearn what you've needed in order to learn what you need. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a season I'm in right now. And I feel like I need at least a year of dedicated time to step back to do this.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that. Um, I think I don't know for sure. I don't know if you'd ever how you'd know for sure, but I think I'm good at unlearning things. I think it comes from humility. I think that's a key idea is that you have to have the humility to say, I don't know everything. There are different ways. And I'm constantly humbled by thinking I know a way to do something, and all of a sudden, I learn something new that maybe not only is my way, not the way, maybe it's not a way at all. And I think I'm fairly open-minded about that. There is another part of this, though, and it made me think of this whenever you said, well, you two sort of reinvented themselves, but when you listen to the record, maybe not. There's something there.
Yeah.
And one of the lessons I learned early, so I worked in the corporate world for many years, and then I went out on my own as a consultant, and I started working with some pretty big companies. And one of the mistakes I made, Keith, was being too humble. And what I mean by that is I went into this one company and I had a really good vision of what they needed to do to be successful. It was a 4-point plan. And every week I would come in to have meetings with this company. And week by week by week, they chipped away at my plan. It was
Mm.
evaporating. Now, part of me was saying, look, what do I know? They've been in this business so long. They're the experts. I kind of need to defer to them here. And as it turns out, I should have stood my ground. I
Mm.
did know what I was doing. And
Mm-hmm.
my humility worked against me
Mm-hmm.
because I should have stood up for what I knew. What makes me me and my DNA and what I've learned over the years, just like some DNA of you two, persisted over their album.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was, that was a lesson that, don't as you learn to unlearn,
Mm-hmm.
it's a tricky dance to
Big
remember,
point.
what you do need to stand up for,
Mm-hmm.
the values and the intelligence and the experience that really matters, that is really relevant, that brings, something to the world.
Yes, that, and you're reminding me of this idea of principles and models, right? Your principles, hopefully, your principles don't change, right? Your values don't change, but the model through which you express those or exercise those, that can shift. That can shift with situation, season, time, stuff like that. And that's what I feel like I was hearing you say in there, is that, yeah, we do not compromise on your values and principles, but it's okay to adjust your models in order to express those.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think we're kind of coming toward the end of our time here, and I think, one of the themes of the book is, you got to disrupt, or you're going to be disrupted. And I think one of the things I admire about you is you're taking that seriously and saying,
Very.
I need a little space here to think about how am I going to disrupt myself. And I know you pretty well. I know that's been a pattern for you through
Yeah.
your life, and it has been for me too. I often say I kind of reinvent myself every 3 years.
Yep.
And that is certainly something that I hope will encourage people through this book. I also, before we leave here, I also want to put a plug in for your wonderful podcast,
Oh, yeah.
Generosity at Work. And one of the things Keith said in our discussion here today was he's going to take time out to listen. And that is one of the major themes of his episode 1, season 2 of his show. If you
Mhm.
haven't listened to Generosity at Work, I highly, highly recommend it. It's intelligent, it's informative, it's very entertaining, it's well produced, and you got Keith Jennings in the middle of it. So you can't
It's been a
you can't
passion project. I've
it's a pa-
loved this project. Yeah.
it's a great project. So Keith, we'll be you'll so what I think what
We're
is
gonna
it?
hang out more, Mark.
We're
That's
gonna
what
hang
we're
out
gonna do.
more. Yeah,
Yes,
we've got a
it's
commitment
all planned.
here. We're gonna do something together in the next month or so. We have a commitment to do that.
Yes.
So anyway, I think is it aloha that means hello and goodbye?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just say aloha. And just just so much appreciation. I don't want to talk anymore because I'm going to get emotional. But I do, you're such a great friend. Thank you so much for all you've contributed to the show and to me personally. And so now we enter a new phase. We've actually got 2 new co-hosts coming on board. Number 1 is going to be Mr. Andy Crestadina. Andy is just a visionary. He is, I think, is in some ways he has the same sort of kindness and compassion that we find in Keith. And he applies this to AI and he applies this to some of the nuts and bolts of digital marketing. So that'll be a new sort of flavor for the show. The other new co-host I'm going to be bringing on is someone who filled in as a ghost host a couple weeks ago, Dana Malstaff. Dan and I have created a great friendship, a great chemistry, and she is truly a visionary when it comes to not just brand communities, but new innovations in marketing and sales. She has a sales background. I think that'll add an interesting twist to the show. So you can look forward to hearing more from Andy and Dana in 2025. We'll have the rest of the co-hosts back. They've all signed on for another year. There's no contract. Everybody's doing it for fun out of the goodness of their heart. So everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. We never take you for granted here, and we'll see you next time on the Marketing Companion.